Welcome to the What's in Store podcast from IDDBA.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the What's in Store podcast. I'm Heather Prach, Vice President of Industry Relations and Education. And with me is the Vice President of Membership and Marketing is Kat. Kat, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thanks so much, Heather. I'm really excited to be here. I think I just crossed over the 90-day mark, and I'm really excited to join the IDDBA community and join you on the What's in Store podcast.
Good, Kat. Can you tell us a little bit of where you're coming from?
Yes, I have a lot of experience in marketing and then also with some different associations, doing membership organizations, supporting international associations, and a little bit of a history in commercial and educational video games.
Nice. So we're very excited to have Kat here and being a part of IDDBA. So this is our first time joining us with the podcast. This is arguably my favorite episode. This is when we're going to launch our 2026 trends.
I'm really excited that my first episode is Heather's favorite episode, because one of the things that I've heard from our members so far as I've been doing member meetings and getting to know people is the value of What's in Store, both live at the show and then also the publication that we put out. So I feel honored to be in on the ground level of hearing about our new trends. Why don't you kick us off, Heather, and just let us know what are the trends that are coming out for 2026?
Sure. A lot of these are just going to be a little bit of reinventing, and know that when we write the trends, we're writing the trends over all of our categories. So we're thinking about dairy, deli, and bakery, what's going to encompass all of those. It's our first time launching What's in Store this early. So What's in Store will debut by December 1st. So please check out that publication. It's going to be open to all members, where it hasn't been open to everyone. It's been open to the member contact previously. Now anyone who's with a member company will have access to What's in Store. So please check out our website. There'll be a link with this podcast. So make sure to see that. And that's where you can see the deep dive in these. So we're going to brief through these and chat about them. But if you want to know more, don't feel like you need to catch all that right here. You'll be able to read through these through What's in Store. So what we have coming up is lighten the load. So it's going to be convenience through versatility. So a little different, and we'll go into that. Clean, simple ingredients. Healthy indulgence. This is always my favorite one to talk about, being with Dairy-Deli-Bake. We know healthy is a trend, but we also know from the numbers that people are still indulging. And then taste the discovery. Safe, approachable adventures. And then homemade, modern made. The comfort reimagined for today.
I'm really excited about several of these. Just to keep us all organized, let's start at the top with lighten the load. When we think of convenience through versatility, what does that mean? What are you hearing about that trend?
Convenience has been a trend for a long time. The old adage, ain't nobody got time for that. We've all been living that, and deeper even after COVID. But where this kind of twists now is, and you're going to find this was interesting when writing these more this year, is that there's a lot more emotional impact on these than there has been previously. I'm a big data gal, and there's a lot more emotions, which I'm not used to talking about emotions, but that's the world we're in right now. So here, people are just getting fatigued by thinking about every day, what am I going to have for dinner? What's for lunch? And people want that to be a little easier. So it's that emotional fatigue. And we've got about 71% of people, this is funny, that say that planning meals feels like a whole nother job.
I would agree with that. I'm in that 71%. I don't even like to cook. So planning meals is absolutely a full-time job for me.
Yeah, for sure. And then that's where you're getting your meal kits. That's where people come to be able to get their grab and go. They want to be able to have all that thought already pulled out for them. Or a shortened menu that I only have a couple items. The days where you had the page through menus is starting to go away. It's too much to decide from.
I think when I'm looking for recipes, on the rare chance that I do cook, if I have to scroll twice, I feel like it's too complicated for me and there are too many ingredients already.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And that's the piece of the meal kit. So having something ready to go, all your ingredients are in there. We've all been guilty of going to the store and I had a recipe in mind, and then that store doesn't have some of those ingredients.
Yeah.
Now I'm back to square one of thinking, again, that's part of that other job, right? In our real jobs, we've always got these curveballs coming, and those curveballs are coming. And how can we make that a little easier?
I think when you're talking about the ingredients, that seems to transition really nicely into the clean, simple ingredients that you're seeing as a second trend. Would you say that?
I would for sure. And people want ingredients that they understand. So people want to be able to read and be able to know what they're getting in their items. I've talked about this a couple times throughout our trend building because it's always something worth saying is I remember when somebody came, they had a label that was loads of butter. And I was like, whoa, that's really intense coming from the 90s where everything was fat free. Now loads of butter, but I know that it has butter. Butter's real. It's an ingredient I know about, and I know it's going to be darn good because it has a lot of butter, and butter is great.
I have been talking to some friends, and I've heard kind of throughout some of my member visits that when people read labels, if they can't pronounce it, then they're not inclined to buy it, whether that's for the health and safety of themselves or their kids. Is that something that you're seeing in this trend?
For sure. And this is where we can really excel being the fresh perimeter. When people connect fresh, they connect that with less ingredients, just automatically, that it's got less additives to it because it's fresh and coming from the perimeter. And also to note that this isn't really a new trend, but what's new about it is that clean is now the baseline. People expect clean. So when they go in, this is now an expectation, not a maybe nice to have.
One of the things that I've heard you mention is the ultra processed food in part of this clean, simple ingredients. You said that this isn't necessarily a new trend. What have you seen some of our members do that have been successful so far in meeting that consumer preference for not purchasing ultra processed foods?
Yeah, this is a deep question, especially as our administration is moving so fast. So with some of the new regulations that may be coming down with ultra processed, with the colors and additives and things that are happening with the administration, not only in our country, but across the world, this is really where all the manufacturers and retailers are putting their dollars. This is where your R&D dollars are going into the clean and simplifying the ingredients.
I think the next trend, I think you said that was your favorite. It is definitely my favorite, the healthy-ish indulgence. I love to think about a treat at the end of a day. We all have a lot of work on our plates. We don't want to think about what we're going to be having for dinner, but we do want a little bit of a treat. So in your mind, what does healthy-ish indulgence mean?
Well, like I said, we know that bakery isn't growing, but right now in food, staying flat is growing. So bakery is a bit flat, but that tells us that people are still going to the bakery. They're still making those impulse buys. So we know that people are still buying it. That's telling us that they're still indulging. So although we've got the gut health, we've got the brain health, we have a lot of trends that are coming up with the healthy piece of it, but people still want, if I'm going to go for it, if I'm going to go for that dessert, I'm going to go for it. And it's going to be really delicious and great. So people are, well, I know working for the Dairy, Deli, and Bakery Association that I'm definitely guilty of equating the amount of calories that are going to be in it. So I'm going to take a smaller portion of it, but I'm going to go all in.
It's interesting to hear you talk about the gut health and the brain health. How are some of our members, or how has the industry responded to customers looking for that healthy piece of it? Is it on packaging? Are they changing their marketing strategies? What's being done to communicate that to customers?
Yeah, I think right now we're deep in the high proteins, right? So about 22% of people are looking for proteins, or 22% of the lift has been in protein. So if I could have a donut and I can have it with protein, I'm going to go for that donut with protein because they're talking about the blue zones, the healthy piece of it, and we can talk about the GLP-1s, all of this that influence what's happening. Also, we've got generational shifts, right? We've got our baby boomers are now older than they've been, so they're eating a little bit less, but more protein to be more healthy. So protein is exploding right now. So if I have to do 1 gram of protein or a half a gram of protein for every pound that I weigh, so just deductive reasoning, we're all, let's say 100 pounds, 100 grams of protein is a lot to fit in a day. So if I can add that to my donut, I'm going to add that protein to my donut. In fact, I'm going to add protein to everything I can. So those protein call-outs are going to be helpful. If I'm trying to go for that 100 grams, I would challenge anybody who's listening to try it. It's a lot of protein.
It also kind of feels like a fun conversation piece. I know that our female listeners out there might understand this, or anybody that wears dresses and skirts. When you have pockets and somebody compliments you on your outfit, you're like, oh, and it has pockets. And I kind of feel like that's the case with some of the food. It's like, oh, that looks like a good donut. Oh, and it has protein. So it almost seems like a little bit of a fun factor, a bragging point for people.
For sure. So if you can do that, call out and you can come back to this podcast, everyone. Let's give it a year or two. Next is gut health. And gut health has been on the fringe for a while. My background, I came from Whole Foods. We could have put kombucha wherever. It was more important than milk. We could have put it in the back room and people wanted the kombucha and your apple cider vinegars and things like that. So that's not new, but the explosion of gut being the main piece of where all of your health and nutrients come from is going to be the next round of what we're going to. So I think right on the back of protein is going to be your gut health.
Well, I've written it down. This time next year, we're going to revisit gut health. And I heard you mention kombucha, which is for some a little intimidating. And so one of the next trends is taste the discovery and safe, approachable adventure and flavors. I can see kombucha fitting right into that. How do you see this trend emerging?
Yeah, I mean, no doubt. We talked about this a little bit last year that we're more global and more culturally aware and just more educated all around as a society with not only travel, but also with the internet and with the mix of families in one household has all changed things. So people are more exploratory. We're no longer meat and potatoes. But I would say, I'm going to use kombucha because that was good, Kat, is people want it to be safe and approachable. So I don't want kombucha that was made next to a tree in the backyard or made in somebody's garage. I want very safe kombucha. I want very safe products. And that is important. We're using that trivially, but the food safety is really becoming a height of what people are focusing on because we're seeing so many things happen in food safety. So that safe component is people want it to be safe, want to know it's safe, but also approachable, fun flavors. So something that I know a little bit about, and that's where your sampling can really help. So in retail, really bring out your samples. People are going to be more edgy with something that they've already tasted and surprise them. Yesterday, I just had a pear almond latte and I was like, whoa, that's edgy. And I asked the woman, like, is that going to be good? And she's like, I had vanilla. And I was like, whoa, too much. I can only do the almond and the pear. But it was delicious. And I never would have come up with that on my own.
I like that it's an adjacent flavor too. I've had an almond latte. I think I know that I would like that. I'm with you. The pear piece seems a little bit adventurous, and you had it, you liked it, you'd recommend?
Yeah, and I dove right in. So I can see from your face, you're like, I needed to try that first. So some people need to try it first. And that's that piece because you are exactly what you just did. I like these two flavors, but now you're going to really boggle my brain by putting them both together.
Have you found any great samples out there? Have you walked into any stores lately and they offered you a sample aside, from this latte that you were like, oh yeah, that's a really good flavor combination?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't have something that comes to mind. I love to sample anything. I'm doing it all the time. I think my favorite is when you put a cheese with something fruity. So
yes.
Give me like a jam and cheese or strawberries and cheese. And then I'm always wowed, but always forget to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the few things I do like to cook is like a nice wheel of brie with some jam on top and some nuts. And you roll that into some crescent roll dough and bake that. And that fruit and cheese, especially in Wisconsin, you can't get anything better.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And I have a stat here. So again, I love data, so I'm going to throw this out because it's impactful. So I have a stat that sampling in the perimeter departments can boost your sales by 40%. That's huge.
Wow.
So when you're looking at what to do, I know that there's issues with being able to do this with labor and keeping up with it and things like that. But 40% is a pretty impactful space to be able to drive your sales.
Was there any information there about consistency in terms of certain times a day that you offer that sampling? I know at certain stores, I've seen people line up when samples are going to be coming out because they've built that brand reputation. Have you seen anything like that be really successful?
I'm going to go back to when I was in retail, we made sure that we had warm bread at 3 p.m. because 3 p.m. was a little bit of a lull in the day. But once people catch on to that, and then you have those warm samples at 3 p.m., people are coming in. So a little adverse of thought of being like, oh, I want to do it at the height of times. Do it to be able to be consistent at times that you want to drive people into the store.
That's a great call out. And that kind of brings us to the homemade, modern made piece. If you've got fresh bread, if you've got home baked things in the store, that can be a great way to entice people and sample and scent. But what else have you seen with the homemade, modern made trend?
I'm going to bring up emotions here again because the world's hard and there's a lot of things going on. So I think this homemade, modern made brings us back to that nostalgic piece when life was simpler, back when we were younger, when the things that brought emotions, like grandma's made things, or, your mom made this. You go to the holidays, we have expectations, and we don't want those expectations to be shifted too much. I'm guilty of that. You go into your parents' house and there's a smell of the space and there's things that you remember eating there. And I don't want my mom to be like, oh, she did this last year, so this is real, tacos for Christmas. And I was like, whoa, too much. I can't do tacos for Christmas, right?
That would be a very different scent profile when you walk into the house expecting ham and mashed potatoes and cookies, and it's spices and tacos.
Yeah, taste the discovery. I'm going to shake it up and do tacos this year. But my inner child wasn't loving that because of what I felt like I remembered going back in, and I wanted it to be simple. And that's really what you're finding here. And then people want that homemade. This came up a lot when we did surveys. People want to be proud of what they're serving and what they're making and what they're bringing to a party. That's starting to shift more and more. I think that's the internet. That's like what you said about having recipes, right? You want to be able to have something that you can give to the host and that you can have your friends have, that everybody is like, wow, this is really great. And you're proud. I made that. Back to your pocket story. Like, I got that from Trader Joe's. Like, how excited are we to be like, hey, I got this here. This is what I did. Let me show you where I got the recipe. And that just lights somebody up. And take homemade. So yes, we want the scratch made. Homemade is now open now. If I put it in the oven, you could argue I made it.
I would argue that I made it if I put it in the oven. I absolutely would.
Yeah, for sure. So you also can spin that homemade and then just adding pieces to it. So let's say you're going to go to Thanksgiving, you're bringing mac and cheese, you add chives to it, maybe you add spinach or whatever you're adding to it, but now it's yours and you have that like, this is mine, I'm proud of it, and now I'm bringing it. And that's really what this trend is about.
I think you're right when you were talking about tasting the discovery and the homemade pieces going so well together, because you can take something that is a little bit more of a take and bake item, add your own spin, help people discover some different flavors, and turn it into an experience that you're really excited to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. So you're just adding these accoutrements and you can really shake up what's happening. And we're seeing that all over the internet, right? The remakes of things and being able to re-explore on how you're putting things together. And then that comfort piece, 67% of people say that homemade style foods give them comfort. So back to that comfort piece is we really want something that feels homemade or feels nostalgic or gives me that feel that I'm going to get from it, that brings that comfort and again, that simplicity.
Now, I understand that these are trends going into 2026. We do still have just under a month of 2025 left. What can our members do? What can listeners do to start preparing these trends for launch in the new year? Are there things that we can be thinking about now so we hit 2026 running?
Yeah, I mean, I think the heart of it is, and we talk about this a lot at IDDBA, is we are the fresh perimeter and we have those labor departments. So the ability to pivot as quickly as possible, but to be able to make seasonal flavors, be able to make things quick, be able to sample items. Those are things that we can do a lot more on the perimeter and drive home some of those feels for the shopper. These shoppers also, if they're coming into the store opposed to getting those deliveries, a lot of people are doing their commodities deliveries. So it doesn't mean that they're not getting items delivered, but they're getting their commodities delivered, but they're shopping the fresh perimeter. And they want that fresh perimeter to be fun. And people are back to those emotions. People want the textures, the smells, the fun, the taste of it. And that's what people really want to explore. And they're going to come to your store and maybe go, you're going to go an extra 2 to 5 miles out of your way or whatever that threshold is, if I know that I'm going to get samples that day.
Yeah, especially if it's fresh bread around 3:00.
Yeah, right. Yeah, throw some butter with it. I mean, I really like butter.
Oh, yeah. We talked a little bit about gut health being something that might be a late 26 or even 2027 trend. What else should we be keeping an eye on? Is there anything that's just starting to emerge that you think is going to have an impact in 2026 or early in 27?
That's interesting, Kat. That's a big curveball. I think we're going to stay in the same spot. And I think this is important to say because I think 27 moving forward, I still think people are going to be going to the store and shopping. We were doing the poll where the poll in the drive of the fresh perimeter is coming from your restaurants, coming from your quick service, your fast food, and people are now going back to fresh. And I think that's good for grocery retail and people wanting to entertain in their houses. That's continuing to grow. And I think we are seeing this grow, but it's going to get bigger. People having more holidays, more experiences, more reasons to have people over, right? You've got Thanksgiving, but then you have Friendsgiving, and you might have more than one Thanksgiving that you're going to. And I think that's just going to explode. One of my favorite things that is happening, and I get so excited every time I see this, any way possible, is the collaborations. And this may hit your geeky marketing side, is I absolutely love when two companies come together. So I was just in Nashville, and I have the What a Wrangler, they're the What a Burger Wrangler jeans, and everybody was like, whoa, where'd you get those? And I was like, Wrangler collabed with What a Burger, and these are the pants, and it was amazing. So, and we're seeing more and more. We're seeing those with lip glosses. We're seeing those with makeup, right? We're seeing this all around. Those food and other goods collaborations are blowing my mind.
I just want to make sure that I heard you correctly. Did you say Whataburger and Wrangler?
Oh, yeah, yes. And I didn't buy one pair, Kat. I have more than one.
I have so many questions, and I'm just trying to decide where to start. What about what did Whataburger bring to this equation?
The colors. So there's a set of jeans that's striped, literally orange and white. Then they have the W on the butt. They're great, but people are like, what are those? And when people get it, I am like, yes. Like there was one woman who was like, are those Whataburger? And I was like, nice work.
You found your people.
Yes, I found my people.
My brain was going to fresh bread scented perfume. And then my brain picked up on all the reasons that would be really terrible to wear perfume that smells like fresh baked bread.
No, you're onto something. I believe it's Idaho potatoes. They did a French fry perfume, sold out in 2 days.
What?
Yes.
All right, we're going to need a whole podcast dedicated to this in 2026.
And we have arguably a lot of really great smells going on in our department. So I think if you smell like bread, there's some sort of pheromone going out with that.
There's some attention. We're not quite sure what it'll be yet. Well, Heather, as we wrap up 2025, get ready for 2026. Anything else that you would share with our listeners right now?
No, I think be open to those emotions. So if I broke these down to 5, so I really thought about this, is what could I really boil these down to? And I think here's what consumers want out of their food. They want it to be honest. They want it low stress, functional but fun, global but approachable, and then comforting but convenient. And keep in mind all of the emotions. So if you're feeling stressed and the world is heavy, everyone around you is feeling that too. And feel free to take that out with food. That's what we're good at.
I absolutely agree. I think with the trends that you've laid out, we are all in store for a very exciting 2026. And as we wrap up, I have some fun 2026 news about the IDDBA podcast. We are expanding the podcast next year. So we are going to grow a little bit and introduce 2 episodes each month. The overarching podcast that you're going to want to be looking for on all major podcast platforms is Fresh Take with IDDBA. Don't worry, Heather and What's in Store is not going anywhere. We are going to have a special episode every single month with Heather featuring What's in Store with industry trends, research, insights from all of our members and across the industry. We're also going to feature Executive Aisle with David Haaf, and he is going to be interviewing different executive members at IDDBA member companies, focusing on high-level industry impacts and perspectives. We are going to be launching 2 new series next year, including Test Kitchen, which will provide professional development resources for all of our members and listeners, and it'll have thought leadership and different tips and skills that you can apply immediately to your daily life. And last but not least, we will have Inside IDDBA, which will show all things relevant to the show. So guests will learn what's happening at the show, what you can expect, who our speakers are going to be, all of the great things that you can do both at the show, in What's in Store Live, all of the wonderful things you'll be able to taste. So we're coming out with that next year in 2026 with a new debut of 2 episodes per month. And I just want to circle back to something Heather said early. We are going to be releasing our What's in Store publication in December, and it will be open for free to all of our members. So if you've been stealing a copy off somebody's desk or you've been waiting for someone to send it to you, you no longer have to wait. You can go to the IDDBA website and download your very own copy.
Thank you, Kat, and we're very excited to have you here at the IDDBA.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to getting to know everybody more in 2026.